All right, we're going to continue looking at some other Spanish explorers. So Christopher Columbus kind of paved the way. He was the first person, even though he was an Italian man, it was Spain that sponsored his voyages. And so he claimed land for Spain. And then Spain would start sending more and more people, later known as conquistadors, in order to take over more and more of North and South America. So one of the next ones was Juan Ponce de Leon. And Ponce de Leon was actually looking for something specific. He was looking for the fountain of youth. You see, back then they believed that there was this fountain that if you drank from it, then you would live forever. And even though we think that's a crazy notion, back then they thought it was true and real. And if you can think about what was happening during this time, Europe was at war with each other. You had Spain and France and England and the Dutch all wanting to take over parts of the globe at the same time. They were all trying to increase their empires. And so if you can imagine, if you had the fountain of youth on your side, then your soldiers would never die. So you would win. Right? So that's actually what Spain was looking for. They sent Juan Ponce de Leon to find the Fountain of Youth because they wanted to win, right? They wanted to be the most powerful empire, the most powerful country in the world. And they believed they could be so if they had the Fountain of Youth. Well, as we know, the Fountain of Youth is a myth. It's a legend. It's not actually real. So Juan Ponce de Leon did not find the Fountain of Youth, but he did discover Florida. So he claimed the land that we call Florida today for Spain. So maybe that's why a bunch of old people always like to retire to Florida, because they think they might find the Fountain of Youth, but no one has yet. So Juan Ponce de Leon's contribution was that he was looking for the Fountain of Youth. He failed, but he did claim more land for Spain in what is today Florida. The next one after him was Hernan Cortez. And by now, Spain had established their empire in Cuba, right? In those islands in the Caribbean. And so Hernan Cortez didn't sail all the way from Spain. He was actually kind of from where Cuba is today. He was Spanish, he was from Spain, but he was living in what is Cuba at the time. So he ends up sailing for the mainland. Spain hadn't conquered the mainland yet, right? And so Hernan Cortez sets sail from Cuba over to the mainland where the Aztec Empire was in Mexico, right? So it wasn't called Mexico at that time. It was the Aztec Empire. And Cortez and his men, they show up on these, big, brilliant ships wearing their bright, shiny, like knights armor, right? And the Aztecs see him in all their like armor and glory, and they're like reflecting the light of the sun off of their shiny metal clothes, and the Aztecs are like, oh my gosh, this man must be a god. And in fact, they were predicting the arrival of one of their gods around that time. So when Cortez shows up, he turns to the Aztecs and he's like, yes, I am that god who you have been waiting for. So he totally lies to them and exploits their religious beliefs into thinking that he was the god that they were expecting to arrive. And so they're like bowing down and worshiping him. And he uses that insider information to end up tearing down the Aztec Empire from within. So Cortez ended up doing things similar to what Columbus did to the Taino people. Cortez enslaved and slaughtered the Aztec people. So he took over the Aztec Empire from within. You can see there on the slide that it says he was famous for saying, burn the ships. That means he wasn't going to turn back. He was like, once we hit the mainland, we're staying. No one's going to go back. We are going to establish New Spain here. And that's exactly what he did. He took over the Aztec Empire and he claimed that land for Spain. So now New Spain exists in what today we call Mexico. It won't become Mexico yet. It's now called New Spain. Well, then another explorer several years later continues what Cortez started. Francisco Vasquez de Coronado, he was not a sailor. Instead, he explored on land. And so he took off from New Spain, which is modern day Mexico, but it was New Spain, down, in where they had established. And he started to travel up north, right? So he was basically looking for the lost city of El Dorado. Yes, he and Dora the Explorer had the same goal in mind, but Francisco Vasquez de Coronado did not find it. And I think Dora didn't she? So, props to Dora. But Vasquez de Coronado did, again, similar things to his predecessors, right? What Columbus did and what Cortez did, Coronado also did to the Native Americans that he encountered in what is today the southwestern United States. So Coronado explored around what is today Arizona and New Mexico and Texas and all the way up into Oklahoma and Kansas. Of course, it wasn't called those things yet, but that's where he went. And all the while he was like, and this belongs to Spain, and this belongs to Spain, and this belongs to Spain. So New Spain ended up expanding up more into North America in what is today the southwestern United States. So there's 3 more Spanish explorers who expanded New Spain. And in the next video, we're going to see that there's some other countries that want to get in on this North America action too.